Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So I was just checking the lumber future prices before I came out here. 600 per thousand, over 600 per thousand. I have a feeling that we will be reaching our new all-time highs here this month, probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'm just assuming. Prices have really skyrocketed in the lumber futures market, like by a lot. What was it? More than doubled since April. I think we were at like 280 or something like that back in April. We're now at 606 per thousand, and I have a feeling we'll be reaching 650 here before too long. Now, the demand for lumber has definitely outpaced the supply, and it wasn't like these prices. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with inflation, but really I feel that these prices have to do with a really bad decision that didn't seem like a bad one at the time from these mills and the production of building materials in general. Because during the lockdown, all the people who produce lumber and plywood and stuff like that, they felt that sitting on a bunch of inventory during a lockdown was not a good idea, considering that they were figuring most people weren't going to be buying a lot of building materials if they're having to be locked down at home. But what ended up happening was that when people were locked down and they got the stimulus check, they wanted to improve their surroundings. So they started building fences and decks and improving their homes and buying paint, and it just wiped out a lot of the building material out there during a time when the people who were producing it were curtailing development. Now that the economy is opening back up again and people are going back into building, the supply of inventory has not had a chance to replenish itself, and the demand is now far outpacing the supply. So this is really where the demand for lumber, I feel, is coming from, and that at some point the supply chain will replenish itself, and you're going to see the prices come back down again. But how long that takes is anybody's guess. Now, there's a lot of things that could possibly happen in the future. I mean, because you think about it right now, we're in the middle of the building season, and if you build homes for a living and this is what you need in order to, complete your home, you will pay any price for it. Any price in order to get that house built so you can sell it. Because that's your livelihood, that's your money. So there's going to be a continuing demand for homes, new homes being built anyway, and the demand for these building supplies is going to remain elevated. So I got to thinking about this a little bit, and it could have a very strange effect going into the future, because there's a couple of things that can happen. You can have the scenario where the housing inventory starts tightening up even more, prices go through the roof, and people stop buying. And then you start seeing the house prices drop in order to meet the capabilities of the buyer. You can see a possibility in the future where the forbearance period ends and you start having a lot of people putting their houses on the market because they can no longer afford to make the payments on them. So they put them out on the market during a time when the builders who are trying to sell new homes are paying the most they ever have in order to get that home built, which is going to be devastating for the new home builders. Now, the only thing that can really stop this is if the Federal Reserve and the government step in together and work a fiscal monetary policy where the government goes into stimulus checks and government spending of some sort, and the Federal Reserve, facilitates that trade by buying up the U.S. Treasuries, weakening the dollar even more, and hopefully, spawning some demand for spending out there. But at some point, there's going to be an issue with these homes and everybody who is unemployed and needing to make those mortgage payments. And something's going to have to happen. And that's where I feel that the government is most likely going to step in with some more stimulus program of some sort, a forbearance period yet again, and try and maintain the elevation of the housing market. This is a strange time to be in. I mean, I could see a scenario where house prices go through the roof and nobody will buy them. And you won't be able to sell them. And when you go to sell them, you're going to end up in a competition with a bunch of other people trying to sell them. I mean, who knows what can happen? And who knows what the government has planned and what they'll do when things start getting shaky, because it's all about government spending now. The Federal Reserve, they're not taking interest rates into negative territory. They will once they get the digital dollar. Once they have their hands on a digital dollar and we are using a digital dollar with a Fed account on an app on our phone or something, that's when you'll start seeing negative interest rates. But until then, it's all about government spending. All right, I got to go into work. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.